Hello and welcome to Lexitecture, a podcast about word origins and histories. My name is Ryan, and in each episode my friend Amy and I bring a new pair of words to share their stories with each other and you. You can find our past episodes and the occasional blog post on our website at lexitecture.com. Follow along with us on Twitter and Facebook at Lexitecture, and if you really like what we do, you can support the show at patreon.com/lexitecture. Today's episode, Trampoline Mildew. Okay, do we want to do our thing now?
Yeah, actual words. I'm really childishly excited about this word because I had no idea what to talk about, just none. I just couldn't. Sometimes it's like that, and it feels like the more you look, the less you actually find anything. And then my kind of ways of dealing with the pandemic, there's no right and wrong. I want to make that clear. There's no judgment involved here. What I'm actually saying is don't judge me, but like this, I do feel quite kind of guilty about this. It's one of these sort of check your privilege moments, whereby like I am fortunate enough to have a part-time job in the public sector in a place where I can work from home, and so I've been employed all the way through the pandemic, which is really, really great, and I'm super grateful for that. But also, when you have to stay at home all the time, you have nothing to spend your money on. Now, I don't know about you, but I like spending money. Like, I get sad when I can't do it.
Yeah.
When we first moved to Korea, and I was, the sort of average size of a Western woman and therefore couldn't buy any clothes, I got sad about not being able to buy clothes. And so I probably buy more shit than I should. And it's really easy also when the internet will literally bring things to your door. So I've made quite a lot of fairly random pandemic purchases. But today, while I was desperately trying to think of which word to talk about, one was delivered to my door because I'm now the proud owner of a little mini trampoline. Now, the little mini trampoline it's a piece of exercise equipment, and I am old enough and wise enough to know that buying exercise equipment is not the same as using exercise equipment, but I have good intentions and those count for something. So I bought a little mini trampoline because bouncing is fun. And
it just is.
And it's lower impact exercise than walking in the snow, which really, really hurt my back. So I bought a little trampoline. Interestingly, it does require 2 people to assemble a mini trampoline. Even when you're stubborn and open the box while your husband is out and go, I'm sure I can make a pretty good go of it, you cannot, or at least I could not. So with a little help from my husband, I assembled the mini trampoline. He did most of the work. And here it is sitting in my home. And I found myself thinking, why is a trampoline called a trampoline?
Yeah.
And, well, I'm going to answer that question for you right now.
Super. So, I was hoping it wasn't just rhetorical. My word today is box. Wait, no! I hear about trampoline.
So the OED defines a trampoline as a base of elastic material used as a springboard and landing area in acrobatic exercises and displays. Now specifically, a sheet of canvas, nylon mesh or the like held in a frame by springs. And that's what I've got. That's what arrived in the box. Interestingly, it uses bungee ropes instead of springs. I'm going to see how that goes. Thus far, I'm not an expert in trampolines, so I don't know any particular difference between the two. However, I was struck by what a fun word it is to say. There's something whimsical and nice about the word trampoline. And I don't know, maybe this is a slightly ignorant thing for me to say, but I find that a lot of words like that are Italian in origin. And indeed, this one is too. There are lots of Italian words that are fun to say. You know, so the OED gives the etymology as Italian from trampoline, which means stilts. And they have a citation from a writer called Florio from 1598 of the word trampolare, which means to go on stilts or high star-tops. Now, I could not find for the life of me what star-tops are. Start OPS. There were lots of abbreviations for start-up operations and things like that. But to go on stilts, to be in a high place, I think is the general notion of this word trampolare, which gives us trampoline, meaning stilts. You can see how that works. And in 1798, we first see it in English. This is such a great announcement. It's from the Times,
cool.
the 28th of June, 1798. Equestrian performances with oranges, forks, skipping rope, hat, handkerchief, and a curious equilibrium with a hoop and glass. Wonderful trampoline tricks by Messrs. Smith. Get me a ticket.
That's amazing. Oh, I'm in.
Yeah. Let's go.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know what tricks equestrians do with oranges and forks and skipping ropes, but I am down to find out. Let's see what that curious equilibrium is. And so we have this from 1798, trampoline without the E on the end. And then in 1799, another report from the Times, he positively leaps over a large tilted wagon and does not make use of a springboard or trampoline. Quickly, we start to see that this falls into figurative use. So, I mean, much later, she says, after saying quickly, but D.H. Lawrence has been bounced up and down on the trampoline of literary fashion more than most writers. This is from the Times Literary Supplement in 1960. But you do find that figurative uses of the word trampoline start to creep into these citations. And interesting, I like this one too, from 1961, from US Patents Quarterly. And it says, as applied to tumbling devices, trampoline is completely generic. And what I like about this is that it has, in quotation marks, trampoline, TRAM hyphen POLINE, trampoline.
Oh, that's not how I would divide that word up at all.
How would you divide that word up?
Tramp would have been like, if honestly, I haven't given it much thought, but I think I would probably do it kind of like rice-a-roni. Like it would be a tramp-o-line.
Like a cheese-o-matic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're
Slice-o-whiz, like those things.
Yeah,
like,
you're actually not far wrong. And so Etym Online has a direct mention of related to tramp, the verb, as it says. And tramp is one of these words that's it's not onomatopoeic because it describes the sound of a feeling.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I never can remember if we ever pinned down what the hell we're talking about when we talk about these things. But tramp, it really does viscerally bring to mind that wonderful feeling of just walking, trudging, planting your feet freely, and really enjoying that experience. So we get tramp from the late 14th century. It comes from Middle Low German, trampen, meaning to stamp, and Proto-Germanic tremp, which also gives us Danish and Swedish and Gothic variants. And it comes from a PIE root, der, which means to walk, to run, or to step. And I have found a really, really beautiful resource. So great. I'm so excited about it. I had a limited amount of time to look at it, but I'm definitely going back for more. So this website is from the University of Texas at Austin Linguistics Research Center, and it's an Indo-European lexicon. So it gives PIE etymon and IE reflexes. It's based on the work by Pokorny, which is available online, but also huge, dense, vast. I find it very, very difficult to navigate. So what the what the University of Texas at Austin has done is they have produced a fairly clear alphabetical list of pirates, which then leads you to a beautiful, beautiful list of Old English cognates, Middle English cognates, English cognates. Also, in this particular example, there's West Germanic, North Germanic, East Italic, Hellenic, Indic cognates of the word. It's hugely... I'm going to spend some time with this website. I'm going to spend some time alone with this website for sure. Yeah, so let's... I'll tell you what I found when I had a look at der, which means to run, to walk, or to drop, or in some cases just means foot. So the Pocorni etymon has it as run, trip, tread, or tramp, giving us tramp, which gives us trampoline. And in Old English, we get words like tredan, treadle, trepe. So the D to T sound change that that you see all over the place in Indo-European languages. And then a really, really great one in Middle English, dromedary. Right? Because you know what a dromedary is.
What?
A dromedary.
I didn't know we'd be talking about trampolines and camels in the same...
Trampolines and camels in the same. Stick around, kid.
Oh, man. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy.
So the drome part of dromedary is from the same etymon, der, dra, dreb, drem, dru. And dromedaries are camels which have been specifically bred for racing. They're speedy.
Oh.
Yeah, they're trained for riding and for racing. There are some other lovely words. Dromond, which was a medieval galley or cutter. A word that I've seen in a poem somewhere, or perhaps in a Narnia story, when I think about it. To come back to rice-a-ronis and cheese-o-matics, there's also the prefix drome, as in, the only example I could think of was thunderdrome. Right. But like a field or an arena or a course. Like an
aerodrome,
Aerodrome or a cyclodrome, I suppose. Yeah, things like that.
Interesting.
This is such a beautiful word, and I didn't know the definition. I had to do a bit of digging with this too. The word that's given is loxodrome, Loxodrome. And loxodrome is defined as being a rhumb line, Rhumb. This is defined as an imaginary line on the Earth's surface cutting all meridians at the same angle, used as the standard method of plotting a ship's course on a chart. That's lovely, isn't it?
It's lovely.
We then get... Oh, you're going to like this one, Ryan. Palindrome. Okay. Running the same backwards and forwards.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
oh, man.
Then we get to teeter, which is a great word. It always makes me think teeter is kind of onomatopoeic for that running on air thing that Wile E. Coyote and those kinds of people.
Oh, okay.
That always makes me think of teeter, even though it's not actually what it means. We get the tramps and the trampolines. Traps, which are of course designed to stop beasts' game from running.
Right.
And this might be, I'm so excited to have this word in my life. Wental trap. Go on, guess what a wental trap is.
Wental trap.
Wentletrap.
Oh man, I'm never gonna get it because I'm just transposing the word Wental trap because it's so much fun into the tune of Good King Wenceslas. So I just think of like whatever it was, like an 11th century Bavarian king.
Well, a Wental trap, again, it does sound rather like a Narnian character. It's a marine snail with a white shell. The other particularly lovely thing about this list of cognates in this brilliant website is it also has troll fells, because troll is also cognate with trampoline, coming from the same pirate, and a troll is a giant inhabiting hills or caves. I don't quite know, but do trolls tread on people? Perhaps, I wasn't too
I
sure
think
about
they
that.
must do.
But Troll Fells is given in the list, and it's defined as rocky troll locale in Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings. As far as I'm concerned, the more Tolkien-specific definitions we get in dictionaries, the better.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So yeah,
Wow.
Wental Trap, I really enjoyed. So I wanted to kind of think about a Wental Trap and a dromedary teetering on a trampoline. And they could do that with a delicious helping of this particular pirate.
Oh man.
I also found this was right next to trampoline in the dictionary in the OED, which is this lovely, it gives you that list down the side. So that, because I think that at least half the fun of a dictionary, I know people don't always think dictionaries are fun, but frankly, I do.
They're wrong.
They're wrong.
They're
Those
just
people
wrong.
just don't know. But
Yeah.
at least half the fun of the dictionary isn't the words you look up, it's the words that you don't look up.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
right next to trampoline is the verb trampus. Trampoose. Now, trampus is clearly cognate with all of these other trampy sorts of words. And its definition is given as, well, first of all, it says US slang, ? Obsolete. And it simply means to tramp or to trudge. It's cited first in 1794
man.
in J. O'Keefe's Wild Oats. I'd teach him to bring a gentleman's son trampoosing about the country. And trampoosing through the history of trampoline has brought me all kinds of pleasure today. From camels and snails to just going for a good old walk.
Holy crap. This might be my favorite word you've ever done. I don't even know where to start. My brain is just a murky stew of deliciousness right now. Because do I talk about what a horror show camels are and how awesome and terrifying and horrifying and amazing? Because that's made me think of that now. And also, I don't remember which one, whether it's Bactrian or Dromedary, that has the one hump versus two.
Don't you know how you remember? Turn it on its side.
Something...
A B has two humps and a D has one.
Well, there you go. Now I'm never going to confuse those again.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, I love that mnemonic.
That's fantastic.
It really does
camels
feel as though camels evolved to let people remember easily which one was Bactrian and which one was Dromedary.
Yeah, that's very nice of them.
Yeah, that most considerate.
Because otherwise they are ornery beasts. Have you ever ridden a camel?
I've never actually really seen a camel in real life.
Oh,
maybe
they
from
are
a distance
monsters.
in a zoo. Everything about them looks like a giant fuck off.
No, 100%. Like if you're like next to a camel, you are like, nope. I am not letting my guard down. And then when you the way they stand up is even just weird and stupid. like they're lying down on all fours. And because their legs are 75% of their height. And which also makes sense because camels are basically just stilts that can survive extreme heat. So it makes perfect sense. But holy crap, but they'll get up, they will extend their back legs completely first.
That's wild.
So if you're on the back of a camel, all of a sudden you are at a greater than 45-degree angle facing the just indescribably horrific front end of a camel below you now. And then they get up after they've had some time to make you just assume that you're going to die.
That's
now.
amazing.
And then they stand up. Yeah, they're crazy.
Do you know
Also,
which country in the world has the most camels?
It's Australia, isn't it?
It's Australia. I love that factoid. It's so great.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of that. Australia might have been where
I was
think
about
I've
to ask
eaten
you, where did you have this experience?
I went to Israel when I was young, and it didn't help that I was 7.
Yeah, sure.
So but the camels don't let that cloud anyone's judgment. If they've never stood next to a camel, you don't even know, man. It's not because I was 6. It didn't help that I was 6, but it's not because I was 6.
I can't believe that they extend their back legs first. That's really biomechanically crazy. In terms of just the whole shifting a load, that's a madness.
Everything. Nothing about camels makes sense.
Camels they have super interesting gait as well because you know the way four-legged animals walk with opposing sides. So their
Yes.
front left and back right paws will move and vice versa. Camels don't do that. Camels do back and front at the same time, which is why they wobble about so much.
Yeah, they're made up.
I think
They're
they
just
are
fake.
pretty made
They're
up.
just fictional.
And
also because I'm slightly broken, and the fact that my first thought when we got to Australia was, I think that's where I ate camel. Was
not delicious.
it wasn't great, but I do kind of want to see like deep fried teriyaki Wentel traps on a menu.
I
Just
could
because it'd
never
be a
eat a
great menu
Wentel
item.
trap. A Wentel trap sounds like it lives in a delightful little woodland home.
Oh, I would eat the pants off a Wentel trap. I just would.
Speaking of t-shirt slogans.
Yeah, that's right. I'd eat the pants off a Wentel trap. Man, this word has everything. That's incredible.
I thought that...
It's also weird.
I just thought bouncing was fun. But yeah, it turns out it's so much more than that.
Man, your pandemic shopping is really paying off. This is incredible. Like, what's interesting to me also is that it seems to have gone, like, it went from, from feet and stepping to stilts, which then makes sense. But then it's not an obvious transition.
It's not, is it?
From stilts to trampoline.
Yeah.
But then it's weird because it seems to have gone through these big changes early on. And then, as you say, to get to the kind of metaphorical use or any sort of other use of it, you're in the 1960s already.
I mean, trampolines themselves, the mechanism by which you can have an inelastic kind of base plate with elasticated or sprung edges, that concept is old, like old as civilization old. We're talking Inuits and Egyptians, like that kind of ancient stuff. So in terms of it as an innovation, it's impossible to even talk of it as an innovation. Who invented the wheel? That was a hell of an innovation, but it's that kind of thing. So in terms of the actual history of, I mean, there's so much that I didn't have time to research because last minute parcels. But the history of the sport, the object, how is it that people went from, this thing helps you to bounce a bit higher, or you can use this thing to rebound throws off of, to, I'm just going to straight up fly.
Yeah. That's crazy. I'm also going to just substitute trampoline for wheel whenever I'm tempted to use the phrase, we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, we don't need to reinvent the trampoline.
We don't need to reinvent the trampoline here. Let's just go. Wow. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Absolutely. You know who else I hope enjoyed that? Segue King right here. Is all of our really quite shocking. I mean, it's shocking that we have any, and every time we get one more, it's weird. But we have 5 new Patreon sponsors since the last time we talked about this. So when I messaged Amy, dear listeners, to inform her of this amazing news as these things the notifications kept rolling in. She was like, were we accidentally awesome in January or something? Because this is weird. And I don't know. But these people are awesome. So massive and heartfelt appreciations to Chris, Ansel, Dermot, Scott, and Glasses of Justice. I don't know, but it sounds awesome.
It does.
Yeah, those are all our new Patreon sponsors. So
yeah,
thank you.
January is an objectively a weird time of year. I mean, we've talked about this already this year, but I feel like if you can enjoy us in January, then we're even more grateful than usual. We are, of course, grateful to all of the brilliant Patreon people who let us do the things that we do without having to hustle for cash for it. And although I suppose technically this is a hustle for cash, so Patreon confuses me. But we're
so
very
confusing.
grateful. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes. Now, my word is, it's just less fun. So, my word is mildew.
Ooh.
So, change of pace.
Is it somewhat inspired by the ill-fated flooded basement?
It's not actually.
Okay.
It's we were talking before earlier, and my basement did in fact flood, but that was several years ago, and I mean maybe it was sort of subconsciously. I was cleaning out walls in my basement, long overdue because I'm not a grown-up, and then yeah, maybe it was subconsciously cued by that. I think this is one of those ones. Finding words for this, like you were saying earlier, it's sometimes a little bit like falling asleep. Like
It's
the more you try to do
astonishingly random, isn't it?
Yeah, and the more you try, the harder it is.
Yeah.
So like I'll be like, that word's got to be it, and I look it up and be like, oh, that's dumb.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, and I think this is one of those. Again, same thing. Like the words you look up are often not as interesting as the words you find by accident when you flip to the wrong page before you find the word you're looking for.
I'm really glad that I suck at alphabetical order to this day.
Yeah, because you find so many new dictionary finds. So, mildew, I think it's the gross stuff that makes your towels stinky when you get back from the pool and you forget them in the car for a day or something. Like, or your basements suck to be in after they've been flooded or whatever, right? So that undesirable fungal-based goop that you don't want anywhere near you or your stuff. So that stuff comes from a PIE root meaning honey.
What? I mean,
That's what
I have observed in the past that mildew sounds much nicer than it is.
Way nicer.
Way nicer.
And it's because...
Like, this stuff is objectively disgusting and it will ruin your tent.
Yes.
Let's call it honey.
Absolutely, exactly. And it literally, like, it arrived in Old English from the Germanic side of the family, as most Old English words do. And it just literally comes from a Germanic compound, meaning honeydew. And so, that's weird.
That's wild.
The fungal growth on damp stuff sense of it goes back to the mid 1300s. So it had a good run of a couple centuries where it did not mean that fungal growth on damp stuff and just meant honeydew. But before that, it seems to have been a very long history, like going back to Latin and everything else. It refers to the very, very sugary, sticky slime that aphids leave behind on leaves.
Oh.
And I don't know that it's specific to aphids or if it's just like the most common thing that was around creating this stuff at the time. But I know that we've had plants, like house plants, sometimes will get either a very small bug infestation or an infection of some kind, and it will just make it all very syrupy and sticky.
Aphids,
and so
aphids are astonishing creatures. Someone, how did we come? Oh, one of our friends gave us a chili plant in maybe early lockdown last year. He had somebody had given him a kit, and it was like growing chili plants from seeds, and he'd put a load out, and they sprung up like weeds. So we had all these chili plants. Nice. So he gave them to a load of people, and it was like super cool. Like this was grown from a seed by a person that we know, and look at it, you can already see the buds where the chilies are going to grow. Cool. And it sat on our windowsill, and we watered it. I say we. Ross watered it diligently and looked after it. And one day, it was like, oh, there is an aphid on the chili plant. Like maybe one or two. And within 3 days, that plant was dead. Like completely fucked. The leaves fell off. It was a brown stick where a chili plant used to be. I couldn't believe it. Like, and it was like, oh, the plant has aphids. That's bad. How do you get rid of aphids? So the solutions sort of range from get some washing up liquid and make a solution with water and washing up liquid and spray it on your plant. So we did that. Lavender oil, that's another thing that's apparently good for it. The aphids don't like this, they don't like that, they don't like the next thing. Nope, none of those things did anything. The aphids got a little bath and they smelled good. And they continued to do whatever the fuck it was that they did that just downright it was like it had been demolished.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, they're weird.
I looked to see online if you could buy ladybirds. And, like, you totally can, but you can buy 500.
Whoa.
Even for someone like me, who's quite an all-or-nothing sort of person, it seemed like a bit overkilly to buy 500 ladybirds for one aphid-infested chili plant.
That's a big stick. Interesting. But that's where it apparently comes from. Is originally was honeydew was the stuff that bugs, the syrupy, I guess, sugar-rich goop that bugs leave on leaves. Breaking that down, dew has basically seems to have always meant just condensation of water or whatever in the mornings and such. Comes from a pi root meaning to flow, and that's about it. Doesn't have a lot of interesting twists and turns, but that's where that comes from. Honey is it basically it comes from now I'm going to get to this later. Not the word honey, but the part of this word that means honey comes from a pi root that just meant honey.
Okay.
Which sort of underscores the ancientness of apiaries and honey in general.
Who was the first person that thought, do you know what? See if we just break that little thing apart. I'm sure there is some delicious, delicious stuff for toast in there.
Yeah, this is going to hurt, but I assume for no reason whatsoever that it will totally be worth it.
In fact,
and
let's
so
keep these little guys with the incredibly stingy stingers and enslave them to make them make that stuff for us. It's really, that oldie-timey humans were fucked up.
Yeah. I bet I could eat that. Oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
Maybe if we boiled it. Well, he's dead. Maybe if we boiled it twice as long. Hey, it's delicious.
Oh my!
Wait,
I tell you what, if you're into that sort of thing, like I find this stuff absolutely fascinating. You must read A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. The section where he talks about potatoes is utterly mind-blowing.
It's crazy.
Just
all of
crazy.
It is insane.
As far as I'm concerned, potatoes were given to the human race by aliens. That is a more believable, rational explanation than the actual kind of... I can't think of the word for cultivation scientists. What are those guys called?
Horticulturalists?
That's the one, thank you. The horticultural explanation as to how human beings use potatoes as a food crop is just... It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Sorry, honey.
So honey's been around for a long time. And honey makes a lot more sense than potatoes. Because holy crap, you're totally right. And this basically, the fact that this word mildew originates with honey does give us some very unexpected cognates with mildew, which you're totally right is a nicer word than the thing it describes. But cognates with mildew include molasses.
Now, this
one of my favorite.
A male thing, isn't it?
Yeah. One of my favorite adjectives is mellifluous.
That's exactly the word I was thinking of.
Word.
It's such a beautiful word.
And of course, if you like for like in French, the French word for honey is miel.
Yes.
So it's a direct line of ancestry back to pie for the French word for honey. Marmalade is related. Of course. And marmalade goes back to a Latin word, mellimellum, which is a type of sweet apple whose original Greek name literally meant honey apple.
Nice.
And it also gives us the word mousse, like the dessert, M-O-U-S-S-E.
I feel obliged to point out there is a long-running kind of urban legend that marmalade was invented in the city of Dundee. This is nonsense, but it's kind of clung to with quite some ferocity in some quarters. But there used to be a large factory that made jam and marmalade in Dundee called Keeler's, and the local legend went that Janet Keeler had a crate of oranges that was going bad, and so she decided to preserve the oranges and thus doing so invented marmalade. But I think there are stories like this all over the place. But yeah, Keeler's like to cling to their kind of we invented marmalade sort of claim.
Is it at least like stupendously awesome marmalade?
Keeler's hasn't existed for a long time. It was one of those industries that sadly got Toryed. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but it was around and then it wasn't. But by all accounts, it was good marmalade. They had the wonderful ceramic, oldie-timey printed jars.
Cool.
You know, you can see things like that in the local museum. But yes, marmalade. Marmalade's a really delicious word to say as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is. All of these words are molasses, mellifluous, melum, mousse, marmalade. So mousse comes from the Latin mulsus, meaning honey sweet.
Oh, beautiful.
So that's good. Weirdly, and this is, I said I'd circle back to this, it's weirdly the English word honey is, you'll notice, does not have nary an M to be found.
Yeah,
or
not
an L.
a mel. No.
So, yeah. So our word for mildew is actually closer to the original words for honey than our word for honey is, which is just stupid because English is dumb.
I have so many interruptions that if you want to poke me in the eye the next time I see you, I'm fully up for that. But you're talking about really interesting things, and I want to ask these questions. So I've been watching Kim's Convenience. Do you know this show?
Yes.
It's so great.
Yeah.
I just love it.
It is good.
I really, really love it. And we watched a chunk of it, and then we sort of, for some reason, fell by the wayside and didn't watch it for a while. We've been revisiting it in lunchtimes because when you're working at home, that's a thing. And there was quite a funny bit the other day where one of Mr. Kim's friends, who always refers to him as Mr. Kim, it was revealed that he didn't actually know what his name was. And he thought his name was Yobo. And Mr. and Mrs. Kim call each other Yobo all the time. And so when his friend says Yobo, Mr. Kim says, no, Yobo's it's like a love nickname. And I said to Ross, who was much better at Korean than I was, does Yobo mean the same as Yoboseo? And we both sort of went, oh. And it transpires that if you Google translate Yobo, as in the nickname, it translates as honey.
Yeah.
Yoboseo, interestingly, this is I did quite enjoy this. This is like etymology for fun, kids. I don't just do it for the podcast. And Yoboseo translates to, is anyone there? Like the way that you would say it if you went into a spooky building and you weren't sure. Because, of course, when you answer a phone, you don't know who it is that's on the other end of the phone.
Yeah.
So, and I think, too, given that Korean is such a... It's important to know who you're talking to in Korean because the shape of the language is different. So is anybody there? I quite like that. We couldn't find any definitive etymological link to Yobo, honey, and Yoboseo, but we're not, neither of us is good enough at Korean to really be able to investigate that topic much further. So if there are any Korean-speaking listeners who know a bit more about Yobo and Yoboseo, Yoboseo, by the way, is what you say when you answer the phone in Korean. So
it's the hello.
Yeah, interesting. That honey should then come up again.
I can think of two. So the Dustin, who hosts the Sandman Stories podcast, where he just reads. It's a cool podcast. He just reads folk tales from all over the world.
Oh, amazing!
And you just get a new little folk tale in there every now and then, and from all over the place, which is very cool. He is a Waegugin currently teaching in Korea.
Ah, okay.
And we had a listener that says nice things about us and contributes to Listener Word Stravaganzas, Kim Dok-soo, who may have some insight on that as well. So if they or anyone else knows whether there's a connection between honey and hello in Korean, shout us out.
Yeah, I'd really like to know about that. Pray
the
continue.
English word for honey.
I'll shut up.
The English word for honey, it seems like it might have ultimately come from an Indo-European word meaning honey-colored. So brownish, goldish, shiny, transparent-ish. And it's thought to have possibly been the source for the Latin word for bran, the Greek word for safflower, an old Prussian word for brown, and possibly the Sanskrit kanaka, if you pronounce the K's hard in Sanskrit, which means gold. So the Sanskrit word for gold, bran, safflower, and the old Prussian word for brown seem to have all share
those things
a
are
lot
not
of
all the same
similarities.
colour. to the best of my
No,
knowledge.
but colors are weird though, right? Like colors, especially historically, descriptions of colors have always been weird, and it's one of the I'll also point people towards The Endless Knot, because
Oh,
Mark and
yeah.
Avon
That
have a
was so
very,
great.
very cool couple of things on historical use of colors and stuff, and just the development, why they're so weird, and why in Homer do we have a description of the wine dark sea, and people thinking, oh, maybe the color blue didn't exist, or maybe physiologically people in the past were unable to see the color blue, or whatever, which I don't think have a lot of serious subscribers to that particular newsletter. But colors have always been weird though. Like it's because it is so subjective, and it's the whole, is the dress white and pink, or is it black and gold, or whatever that stupid thing
Plus,
was.
who's to know that the colours that anyone sees are the colours that anyone else sees? You know, that whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's I just turned 14 and learned a philosophy question deep, but it also is true. Like
those are my favourite kinds of philosophy questions.
Yeah. I do like those more than the real ones.
Yeah, for sure. I'll deal with that over the agony of existence any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. So there's a delightful, incredible, mildewy trampoline.
But why?
Y'all.
But why is mildew honey? Does honey get mildew on it?
Because I think it's because of the resemblance of the sticky, sweet, syrupy stuff that bugs leave behind on leaves with honey. And so it's not regular dew, because it's not water. It doesn't just roll off.
Yeah.
It's sticky.
And it's honey-like because it's sticky.
Presumably, I guess it's sweet.
And it just seems to appear overnight like dew does.
Like dew, exactly. So you wake up in the morning, your plants are covered in this sticky stuff. It's not dew, but it's sort of like honey, so it's honeydew, and so it's mildew. And then eventually it just becomes gross, because we have to ruin everything because we're people.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's it. That's fascinating. That's really cool. Is mildew a particular type of fungus? Because I
don't think so.
You know how I love a botanical name. Is it botanical if it's fungi?
I don't think it is fungological. I don't know.
Fungological. If it wasn't a word, then it is now.
So it's a word now.
Fungological.
Yeah, I don't think...
That's so great.
I don't think it's tied to a particular fungal infestation. I think it just has become one of these kind of... Like, in the same way that I don't... I mean, maybe it is. Maybe I'm totally wrong on this. But I don't know that everything we call mold is the same actual stuff.
Not at all. So Wikipedia says mildew is a form of fungus. It's distinguished from its closely related counterpart, mold, largely by its colour. Molds appear in shades of black, blue, red and green, whereas mildew is white. It appears as a thin superficial growth consisting of minute hyphae, fungal filaments, produced especially on living plants or organic matter such as wood, paper or leather. Both mold and mildew produce distinct offensive odours, and both have been identified as the cause of human ailment. Oh, see, this is the stuff I really love. In horticulture, mildew is either species of the fungus in the order Erysipelas or fungus-like organisms in the family Peronosporiaceae.
Neat.
I do love me a long Latin word.
Yeah.
Oh,
very cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Honeydew.
So there's mildew.
I quite love when, it's beautiful when words have these twisty, turny, figurative, philosophical sort of ways, but sometimes it's like, oh, this stuff looks like that stuff. Let's call it the same thing. Done. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it for another episode of Lexitecture. To get in touch with us about something you heard this episode, you can email us at words@lexitecture.com. You can also follow along and talk to us at Lexitecture on Facebook and Twitter, and at Lexitecture Podcast on Instagram. For back episodes and the occasional blog post, visit us at lexitecture.com. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you again soon.